If I could call Representative Paul and Senator Nichols to the stage, please. As they're coming in, thank you and good morning. My name is Dr. Tracy Benson, and I am an Associate Professor of Chemical Engineering and Associate Director of Research for the Center for Midstream Management and Science. I started my academic career here at LU. Good? Okay. 10 years ago. Well, I guess I am good now. And my research interests have broadly covered catalysis and process development for wasted chemicals. I have recently turned my attention towards the petroleum midstream sector in the hopes of closing the gaps associated with the expansion of domestically generated oil and natural gas. Is this active? And this morning, am I live? Okay. This morning I have the distinct pleasure of moderating this panel, and I am excited to get started by introducing our panelists. Please welcome Representative Dennis Paul. He represents House District 129, encompassing a portion of southeast Harris County, and is currently serving in the 3rd legislative session. During this session, he was appointed by the Speaker of the House to serve as Vice Chairman of the House Committee on Homeland Security and Public Safety, and as a member of the House Committee on Insurance. Representative Paul is, okay, and as a member of the House Committee on Insurance. Representative Paul is a native of Houston, a structural engineer, also a graduate of U of H, and the owner of Paul Engineering Incorporated. Please join me in welcoming him. Thank you. Our next panelist is Senator Robert Nichols. He serves 19 counties, including the greater part of East Texas and Montgomery County. In the Texas Senate, Nichols currently serves as chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee. Senator Nichols also serves on the Finance, Administration, Business, and Commerce, and the Intergovernmental Relations Committees. He is a member of the Legislative Audit Committee and former vice chair of the Sunset Advisory Commission. A graduate of Lamar University, Senator Nichols has served as a Transportation Commissioner for 8 years. He has also served on the City Council of his hometown, was elected mayor, built 4 successful manufacturing facilities, now get this, earned 32 U.S. patents and 128 foreign patents. Senator Nichols was instrumental in securing the funding for the Center for Midstream Management and Science here at Lamar University, for which we are truly grateful. So please join me in welcoming him. So gentlemen, where to begin? Forbes and others suggest that the Permian Basin in parts of West Texas is poised to become the world's most productive oil field. How do you see this as long-term benefit to Texans and the state of Texas? I'll let you two decide who wants to speak first.
Well, I always defer to the Senate, you know.
The Senate, is that on? Yeah, push it.
Hello? Hey, mine's on there.
Testing. Yeah, the Senate usually likes the last word. But I'll go ahead and start. Before I even answer that, I want to say how excited I am to be here on my alma mater. I got my engineering degree here at Lamar. It was the best 8 years of my life. Going to school and working here. And I'm very excited to be that the Lamar was interested in bringing this issue up to the legislature. And so excited because no one else did. No one since I've been there has ever brought up this issue as something that we need to study in detail and certify people and continue to improve and research, although I think everybody in this room knows it needs to be done. And it's also, I want to say that it's very good to be in a room of people who understand the value of fossil fuel for energy. Because so often you would be surprised how many times I'm in a room that feel quite the opposite. And there's a struggle out there, and it's a struggle the legislature gets involved in. And so I'll kind of stop that part there and go to your question. The most of my lifetime, the United States was totally, not 100% dependent, but heavily dependent on foreign energy supplies, which made us vulnerable as a nation. And so we ended up with these geographic areas and hotspots that we spent a lot of lives and money defending, that now we know that we can be self-supportive. And that is a great blessing for our nation. And not only can we be self-supporting and not dependent, we can export to countries that are friends of ours who are dependent on people who were not friends of ours, and help them in doing so. And so having one of the primary sources of that energy in our home state of Texas is something that Texans, it gives us one more thing to brag about. It creates jobs, good grief. It brings in revenues for the state that turn into other things. Part of that revenue help fund this program. And so you've got jobs, you've got the wealth that's created. And I became very aware, not this session, but the previous session, the paradigm shift, we're having some of these very inexpensive natural resources like natural gas that we didn't really have before, like a 100-year supply. And with that, for the first time, we've been able to produce products like plastic on the Gulf Coast and actually export them to other nations and make a profit. I mean, they're literally, I think we identified $42 billion of economic development on the coast that's directly linked with things like the Permian and a long-term source of inexpensive natural gas, for which I'm chair of transportation, and that's not just highways, it's moving people and goods, not just on roads, it's on rail, it's on waterways, it's in air, it's in pipes. I don't care how you transport it, it's very important. And so we appreciate the midstream industry supporting this program. And I know early on, I got very excited. President Evans, I remember your presentation. You left part of actually what happened out. When he brought it up, I got very excited and started saying, good grief, this is midstream. It was half the Texas Senate was on finance, half the Senate minus one. And the first reaction the other members had was, what's midstream? They don't know. I mean, it's a lot of English majors and attorneys and things like that. I think there's 2 engineers in the Texas Senate, and only one's on finance. And so the other members started asking, what's midstream? I started trying to explain it, which you can't, it's difficult in the 10 seconds. But then some of the other members said, just, it's something about, don't ask. Nichols knows what he's talking about. But I appreciate very much, President Evans, you bringing that forward. And I know anytime we're looking at money, competition for new dollars, I mean, we support existing programs, but when you're looking for exceptional dollars, you're trying to compete with those dollars, and it might be competing against mental health, other forms of education, transportation, whatever. And I immediately told President Evans to meet me in the hall, and I knew that the only way I felt like I could sell it to the members of the Senate was if industry has skin in the game. You know, it's everybody says, yeah, I support it, but or do you really support it? If you want it enough, will you put some skin in the game? And that's gave me something to talk to the other members. Say, if industry will support it, I immediately contacted, I know, Commissioner Staples at Texoga, and he sent a lot of information out there. And so I love to see Energy Transfer and some of the other midstream people here supporting this program. And so I thank you very much. So it's going to have a huge impact.
Representative Paul.
Well, first of all, thanks a lot so much for having us here today and being a part of this program. You know, as the senator was saying, there's not many engineers of us in the Texas legislature. I think there's 2 of us in the House that are doing it now. And I always think that it's great to have engineers in the legislature. You know, well, number one, we identify problems, we solve problems, and we do it in a cheap manner. What more do you want out of a legislator? So I think it's good to have some men of science working in there. And as I said, also, I'm a Cougar. I got my Bachelor of Science and Master of Science both from the University of Houston. I'm a structural engineer by trade. So it's great to be on the campus of Lamar University. We played down football and basketball every year, so it was always kind of the down-the-street school that was from us. So I'm glad to be here and see what y'all have, and drove around the campus. Very impressive what you got in this building here. It's a beautiful building to see what y'all have on the campus and see how y'all are growing. I think, number one, let me say a little bit about your organization here. I'm very excited to see that this gets done. I think these centers and studies are important for us around the state. I love to see these things get created. I always try to throw them in the University of Houston, but it's good to see that this is here in y'all's university and making it work. Because without these studies, we won't be able to see how we can grow and make this industry participate and grow. As NASA's in my district, I also started the Space Caucus for that same reason, to try to grow those industries in the state. So I have an interest in growing these kind of industries and growing and seeing. As far as the shale product going out in Eagleford and Permian, I mean, it's just fantastic to see what's going on out there. And I think the importance of seeing our nation become oil independent is so critical for us going forward, and so critical for our allies, as the senator said, going forward, that this is paramount. I think this is going to be one of the most important issues of the 21st century for our nation. And I think by the numbers, we would be energy efficient totally by our production in 2020, which is next year. And seeing that kind of growth and opportunity, especially for us that are here on the southeast Texas coast, I think oil and gas industry is about 30% of our total gross domestic product for the state. And seeing those exports either coming by pipeline or truck and coming down to the Texas Gulf Coast where they're refined into products or plastics, and coming out of my district, out on the Port of Houston, coming out of my district there where the Port of Houston is 10% of the total gross part of the state. And I was vice chair of the Port and Infrastructure Committee where Joe Deschantel chaired it in the House last session. So Chairman Deschantel has done a lot of work on this also with the ports and what we're going to do, and seeing that kind of growth and opportunity happens due to the fact that we have this cheap natural gas and how we can turn it into pellets, ship that all around the world, and be made into products that we use and buy all over the world. So it's just fantastic what's going on here. It's poignant to be in East Texas, where in the old days the East Texas oil fields created such a massive glut in the day that we created the Railroad Commission, and for a while, the state of Texas was able to manage and control the price of oil, kind of like what OPEC did in the 70s through the Texas Railroad Commission. And great to see that that's coming back, and how now through Permian and those other shale operations, how we're producing so much of the oil and gas, not only of the United States, but of the world. And seeing that, I was in Alaska not too long ago for an energy conference, and Commissioner Staples was there, and Alaska was talking about what a great importance they were and how big they were, the fact that they were twice the size of Texas. We got all the jokes of cutting Texas in half, Alaska in half, and we would be the third largest state. Commissioner Staples pointed out, well, we could put our oil production by 10 and we would still be bigger than y'all. So it was really fascinating what's going on in this field and what's going in the opportunities of something like a study like y'all's group here to further expand where we can go with that. So thank y'all.
Thank you very much. What gaps, education, research, what have you, do you see our Center for Midstream Management and Science filling in regard to the Permian Basin and Eagle Ford Shale? How can we be most effective?
I don't want to see you limit to those two to start with. I see you working all across the nation. I would think the industry, there's other shale plays around the nation, and they desperately need pipelines as well. I know the XL pipeline's going from Canada all the way through linear, through my district, down to to this area. And so, why just think in terms of the Permian and the Eagle Ford? So that'd be number one. Don't limit yourself. Number two, I would encourage you to work very closely with the energy companies, the midstream companies, which I consider energy companies, but also the users, the chemical plants along the way, which are part of not always the energy companies, but those are the users. And so it's got to work for all of them. And that's what I would encourage you to do. The neat thing that you've got here is you have the other